Links between thyroid health and brain health. Wow, that's a big subject. So I'll try to keep it short here. There's a link. Depending on who you are listening to, they might call it crosstalk between the thyroid and the brain. They might call it the brain thyroid web. There's a bunch of terms for it, but there's a vicious cycle between the brain and the thyroid. Usually starts with the thyroid. And to keep it basic, when you have autoimmune thyroid disease, when you have Hashimoto's, okay, autoimmune thyroid will, when you get a trigger to your thyroid, in other words, if you have Hashimoto's, autoimmune thyroid disease, and there's so many triggers, there's the gluten, there's different types of, whether they're nightshades or lectins, or there's glyphosates, or there's just a ton of food ones, there's chemical ones, there's pathogenic ones, there's just a ton. There's lifestyle ones. Whenever you introduce one of these triggers into your system, depending on your sensitivities, you're likely to set off a thyroid response, because you're going to cause too much thyroid hormone to be ejected out of your system. This does a lot of different things, okay? It can cause heart palpitations, but it can, in someone who is prone to anxiety or panic attacks because they have a easily firing midbrain, or it's called an amygdala. That's not in the midbrain. An easily firing amygdala, which is the fear center of the brain. That extra thyroid hormone can set that off, and it can cause you to have anxiety or panic attacks. In general, Hashimoto's is known to, when it's active, it's known to increase inflammation to the frontal lobe, and it's known to decrease oxygen to the brain in general. The inflammation can hit the frontal lobe. When you have inflammation in your brain, your neurons, which are the nerve cells of nerve tissue of nerve cells, the neurons, when they become inflamed, they'll become excitatory, producing some of the symptoms I just mentioned, but also inflammation will cause your neurons to not be able to make proper neurotransmitters like serotonin and dopamine. Meaning serotonin and dopamine means serotonin, I'm not happy, I have seasonal affective disorder, depressed. Dopamine, I'm not motivated, I'm angry, I wake up tired, and so on and so on. You put the two of them together, you have significant depression, and maybe even someone who wants to do harm to themselves. This is a chemical issue, and so Hashimoto's literally is involved in all of those, in all of those factors. Hashimoto's is now being, migraines. What are migraines? Migraines, if you break it down to the simplest aspects of it, and I don't mean to denigrate migraines for those of you who are experiencing, because I see migraines almost every other day, and I'm glad I've never had one. But they're all about blood supply. They're all about blood supply. They're all about arteries dilating and contracting when they're not supposed to, and they're all about inflammation. Hashimoto's will cause you to lack oxygen to your brain, and it will increase inflammatory responses to the brain, to frontal lobe, and to those arteries, and boom, they're now, I believe I'm correct when I say the last I remember of the statistics that I read, that was me trying to remember what it was. I think they're saying that Hashimoto's is now present in approximately 70% of migraine headaches. I'm pretty sure that's the number. So, and then the next thing, the thyroid does relative to your brain is they're now starting to say a lot of these inner ear issues, a lot of these neuroinflammatory problems, neuronitis, certain aspects of tinnitus, certain aspects of BPPV, where they say the rocks come out of your ear and you get dizzy and that type of stuff, are being caused by inflammatory responses from autoimmune thyroid disease. There's another really, really specific connection from your thyroid, particularly with Hashimoto's, to something called your cerebellum. Your cerebellum sits back here. It's called your little brain. Okay, this cerebellum basically controls almost every part of your brain, but it has a very specific connection to Hashimoto's. When you get an immune attack against your thyroid, you will get an immune attack against your cerebellum about, it's a pretty significant amount of time. So I don't want to put a percentage on it. If I had put a percentage on it based on what I see in my practice, boy, I'd probably say between 50 and 70% of the time. So you get this attack on your thyroid, and now you have heart palpitations, anxiety, and insomnia and tremors and emotional and stuff like that, which emotional is frontal lobe, okay? But then you might also get like nausea, or you might get lightheadedness, or you might get dizziness or vertigo. Maybe you've developed seasickness, car sickness. Maybe you've developed where you can't be in a room with a crowd. Maybe you've developed where you have light sensitivity, sound. This is all your cerebellum. And there's this molecular mimicry between your thyroid and your cerebellum. What that means in English is there's molecules on your thyroid that look exactly like molecules on your cerebellum. Endocrine tissue, thyroid, brain tissue, nerve tissue, cerebellum. Go figure. But that's molecular mimicry. Look it up. And so when you get one attack, you get both attack, and it confuses the daylights out of people, because obviously they're going to the thyroid person for their thyroid, and they're going to the counselor for their anxiety, and they're going to the ear doctor for the dizziness, and they're going to the neurologist to check their brain to see why they're having vertigo. And it's insane, because the same trigger will trigger both of those particular issues. And there's more. But those are really the major connections between the brain and the thyroid. And as far as the brain affecting the thyroid, just from the perspective of, if you go into a stress response, it increases all metabolic functions, and it'll increase thyroid function. But it's really more how the thyroid, how an attack on your thyroid affects brain function, because it is so underappreciated, as per my statement of just, one person going to 4 different doctors for the fact that they ate something that flared off their thyroid and caused all of those things. So that's thyroid brain connection.